Well, welcome to a new 8-part series starting with today's introduction on the 7 tips that made me a better speaker. You've probably been seeing a few of the testimonials that have been coming out about a workshop that I do, and I had a few people say, "What's the 7 tips?" Well, that's what we're going to walk through over the next 8 days, starting with today's introduction. So today I want to just mention each of the 7 tips to you to kind of give you a framework, a roadmap on where we're going. And then I want to share with you a resource that if you've wanted to become a better speaker, if you've wanted to become a better communicator, is a great place to start. And it really has influenced a lot of the 7 tips that I now teach to different teams and at different communicator workshops. Okay, let's go through the 7 tips together. Are you ready? Okay, tip number 1 is understand your audience to make a bigger impact. This is really about talking about what the audience needs, not just about what you know. We all come into speaking wanting to share information that we know, but when you understand your audience, your message has an opportunity to really land. Tip number 2 is one clear message is all you need. Once you know your audience, you got to deliver a key core message. You might have heard this called a bottom line. You might have heard it called a central theme, a core message. There's so many different names for having a basic one sentence for what it is you're talking about. When they leave, do they know what your message was? We're going to talk all about that in tip number 2. One clear message is all you need. Tip number 3, build a clear roadmap. You know, a lot of times we lose people on the journey when we're given a presentation at work or when we're given a message on stage because we don't have a clear roadmap. We're kind of weaving all over the place. And then at the end, we expect them to all still be in the car. And they're not because they didn't know where we were going, so they fell out somewhere along the way. We have to have a clear roadmap. So not only they know where we're going, they can join us on the journey. Brings us to tip number 4. Use stories to inspire and connect. Remember, facts tell, but stories sell. We learn best in story form. Think about all the movies that you watch and how you remember so many things that happen in the movies because the lesson is built inside of the story. Think about the nursery rhymes that you learn as a kid. It's this story that has a lesson in it. There's so much value to the stories that we tell. So how do we tell good stories? So we look at when we look at inspiring and connecting. So tips number 1, 2, 3, and 4, the ones I just shared with you, those are the tips for designing your next message or designing your next talk, your next speech, your next presentation. Those are the first 4. The next 3 are the delivery. How then do you take it and deliver it with power? Well, tip number 5 is our first delivery tip, and that is rehearse to build confidence and clarity. The first time you do the message for the audience shouldn't be the first time you do the message. That's why you're having trouble. Even if you've built a good roadmap, which is going to help you know where you're going, if you have not practiced, if you have not worked through it, you might get lost along the way. So you want confidence, you want clarity. That takes rehearsal, which was tip number 5. Tip number 6 is dynamic delivery makes all of the difference. Why do we want to have dynamic delivery? Because it's important for audience engagement. If not, we would just print out the manuscript and hand it out at the door and send everybody home. We don't do that. No, we've got to bring it to life. We've got to show what it is that we are saying, and that comes through dynamic delivery. And tip number 7 is you got to make feedback your superpower. A lot of times we think of feedback and we do this. We don't want to hear it. We don't want anybody critiquing. What's happening? Our ego is getting in the way. But feedback is a gift. It's a gift because it'll help us notice patterns that we need to change and adjust to help our message land in a more impactful way. Maybe there are things you're doing that's distracting the audience. Maybe a point makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to them. Value feedback and use it as a superpower. All right, that is the 7 tips that have made me a better speaker. We're going to walk through each one of these in just short form over the next 7 days that we have left together. Let me give you your quick resource before we jump out of here. I recommend this to everybody in my cohorts and in my leadership groups when I talk about presenting. It's called The Exceptional Presenter. This was actually a textbook for me in one of the courses that I took in a executive education program. And the professor walked through this book. It was amazing. I felt like there were so many habits, maybe nervous habits I had. I felt like there were so many things that were easy to correct that I just didn't know. And once I read this book, I made some dynamic changes to the way that I took the stage and the messages that I delivered. And this was one of the best resources and an easy one because you could actually go just order this book, read it, put it on your library, and keep it for a resource. I look forward to walking through these 7 tips with you. I'll see you tomorrow.